Today we're going to talk about order of operations using fractions, and this is the last video on the series of order of operations. So if you haven't seen the other ones, we did talk about our order of operations using integers and just the regular practice of order of operations. What is it? How do we apply it? What's BEDMAS? How do we use that in an equation? So today we're going to focus on fractions. So when we have questions that include fractions and we need to apply BEDMAS, how do we go and do that? So for starters, we're going to take a look at this question that we've got right here. We have 1/10 plus 6/10 times 3/1. So when we look at BEDMAS, again, we need to remember the order. We want brackets, exponents, division and multiplication, addition and subtraction. So looking at this question right here, do we see any brackets? No, we don't have any brackets. Do we have any exponents? No, there are no exponents to include. Do we see any division or multiplication? So we do have a multiplication. We have here the multiplication of 6/10 times 3/1. So we're going to do the multiplication first before we get to the actual addition. All right, so we're going to bring down then our 1/10 because we're not doing anything with it. But we always bring our numbers along for the ride. Plus, and now we get to multiply the 6 times the 3 because we multiply the top by the top and the bottom by the bottom, which becomes 18/10. Okay. Now we're able to add. And one of the rules that we know we need for adding is we need to have the same common denominator. In this case, we already have the same common denominator, so we can actually go right ahead and add. We're going to put everything over 10. We'll bring 1 plus 18, which is the same as 19/10. Great, now let's take a look at this one. So we've got 5/2 minus 2 divided by 3. So again, when we look at BEDMAS and the order of operations, we know that we don't have any brackets, we don't have any exponents, but we have a division. And division needs to take place first. So what we're going to do is we're going to go 5/2 minus, now in this case, we want to convert these into fractions format first because they're actually whole numbers. And so we know by the rules when we were actually studying our fractions that any whole number is the same as that number over 1. So that means that the 2 is the same thing as 2/1 divided by, and the 3 is the same thing as 3/1. Okay, so we're going to do that step first so that we can have everything now in fraction format. Again, now we can continue with our division. So our rules for division in fractions is that we need to flip this number and change our sign to multiplication. So this changes to a multiplication, and we're gonna now flip the second fraction in our division, and the number at the bottom goes at the top, the number that's currently at the top goes at the bottom. And then we can multiply. So we're going to go to the next step. And so we can now multiply the 2 times the 1 and the 1 times the 3, which becomes 2/3. Perfect. So we're going to now continue with our subtraction. And we notice this time that our denominators are not the same. So in order to get our denominators the same, we want to find a common denominator, okay? So what is a number that we can see in the 2 timetable and in the 3 timetable? Well, it is 6. So 2 times 3 is 6, and 3 times 2 is 6. And we know that we learned this in when we're trying to find the denominator, common denominators, that if you multiply this number by this number, so always the two common denominators, the 2 denominators that it currently has against each other, you'll always end up with a common denominator. So this would become, so this is going to be multiplied by the 3, and whatever we do to the bottom, we do to the top. This we're going to multiply by the 3, And this one we're going to multiply by the 2 because we're going to multiply these two together, right, to get a common denominator. And this one we're going to multiply by 2 because whatever we do to the bottom, we do to the top. Our goal is to have the same denominator. So 5 times 3 is 15. And the bottom is going to be 6. Okay. Minus 2 times 2, which is 4. And the bottom is going to be 6. So now we have a common denominator. Okay. So all of it over 6. Now we can do our subtraction of 15 minus 4, which is the same as 11 over 6. So that's that question. Now we got one here that it has brackets. So we see that in BEDMAS, brackets comes first. So brackets comes first, it means that we need to take care of this piece first. But within this bracket, we also have to apply BEDMAS. So when we look at this bracket and we look at BEDMAS, what's going to happen first, the division or the addition? The division, because BEDMAS has the D first before we get to addition and subtraction. All right, so we're going to divide 10 divided by 5, which is 2. So this is going to become 2 plus 1 over 6, because we're just dragging the rest of the numbers with us until we get to them. Okay, so we still have our bracket, but now we have a whole number. What did we just say about whole numbers? Whole numbers always go over 1, and the idea is to have both numbers in the same type, the same format. So we're dealing with fractions, we want them to both be in a fraction format. So this is going to be 2 over 1 plus 1 over 6 times 3 over 5, because we just keep bringing that number down. Okay, so we're ready to add, but our denominators are not the same. So again, we need to convert them into the same. So to do that, because we have different denominators, the simplest way is to just multiply these two to each other, in the sense that if we multiply this one by 6, it's going to give us a 6, and that would be a common denominator for both. And we're going to multiply this one by 6 as well, because whatever we do to the bottom, we do to the first. The 6 is already a 6, but again, if we multiply it times 1, that's how we get that 6. And we multiply the top by 1, because we have to do everything the same. So 2 times 6 is 12 over 6, plus 1 times 1 is 1, 6 times 1 is 6. Now we have a common denominator, so we can go ahead and add. So we've got 12 plus 1, which is the same as 13 over 6. Okay, so here we've got 2 more questions, a little bit more complicated than the ones that we just did. But if we follow the same steps, we should be okay. So let's take care of this one first. And so again, we're going to follow BEDMAS, and BEDMAS tells us that brackets comes first. So do we see brackets in this fraction or this equation? Yeah, we've got it right here. So that means that everything else is going to stay exactly the same, and we're going to focus on the brackets first. So the top, we're just going to rewrite because we're not going to do anything there yet. Okay, and the bottom. Okay, let's take care of the bracket. So inside the bracket, what comes first? Multiplication or subtraction? Multiplication comes first. So we're going to take care of that piece, which is 6 times 2, which is 12, minus 5. Okay, so we still have brackets. So we want to get rid of that brackets before we do anything else, which means that once again, we're just going to bring down all the numbers that we already have without doing anything there. Okay, and we can do now 12 minus 5, which is 7. Okay. All right, so next step in BEDMAS, we got rid of our brackets. Okay, and this is going to stay in a bracket because remember what we said, when there is a number right next to a bracket and there is no operation sign, it's a multiplication. So we're going to leave it like that so that we know that we need to multiply. So BEDMAS tells us that we need to do brackets, which we don't have anymore, exponents, which we don't have, or next is division and multiplication. So we do have a multiplication here at the top, and we have a multiplication here at the bottom. So we're going to take care of those next. So 3 times 2, which is 6. And then we go minus 1 plus 3, because I said we just keep carrying everything forward. We just do one step at a time. 9 times 7, which is 63. Okay, so now we can do the next step, which is the adding or subtracting. And I said in previous videos that in BEDMAS, if we have addition and subtraction, we do it in the order that they're in from left to right. So that means that we're going to do the subtraction first and then the addition. So 6 minus 1 is 5, and if we add 3, we have an 8. So our answer will be 8 over 63. And usually I would do that in 2 steps. I will do the 6 minus 5 first, and we carry everything else over, and then I would do the addition, but I just don't have a lot of space here. So this is why I've just done it all in 1 step. But I would suggest that you do it in 2 so that you don't lose out on any numbers or mix something up. Okay, next one right here. This one's a little bit easier than the one we just did. So again, we have a fraction where we have an equation at the top and one at the bottom. And we have to apply BEDMAS to both sides. So we don't have any brackets, we don't have any exponents, we don't have any divisions, but we do have a multiplication. So that means we're going to do the multiplication first. So the 6 stays the same, plus now we do this multiplication. 5 times 3 is 15. And we leave that 6 plus 1. Okay. Now we only have an addition, so we need to do the addition on both sides. So 6 plus 15 is 21. 6 plus 1 is 7. And so the answer is 21 over 7, which we can simplify further to a 3. Why? Because 21 can be divided by 7 3 times. So right now we have it as an improper fraction. We can just turn it into a whole number right there. And there we go. That is the end of that.